I thought the Rosary would fix everything, that if I prayed enough, things would get better. But nothing changed, at least not on the outside. Inside, everything was transformed. The way that I prayed the Rosary back then with my mom and the way that I'm praying the Rosary today is very different, because my eyes got open on so much more than just the Rosary itself. It's about prayer in general. And in my spiritual life, the way that I was praying was for me to ask, but the more I would add devotions and type of prayers, especially being Catholic, we have a whole list of prayers. You can have a book just onto prayers and types of devotions that we can have. And the more I would do that, the more I would feel like I was getting protected. And it was that misaligned expectation of me doing things in order to get back things, like a contract, a deal, a negotiation, or some type of human contract. When you think about the Rosary, when you think about the transformation itself, it's opening up your eyes to so much more than praying the Rosary. Is the sense of prayer itself. And having a talk with my mom again, always have talks with moms. I mean, they know best most of the time. She changed her own prayer life in the sense that she said that any prayer would do when you have a deeper divine relationship with Christ. You don't need to have a tone to get more. You don't have to do a ton to get closer to God. You just have to be genuine and honest and open. In that sense, have an open heart and trusting, and it's gonna do the rest. And the Rosary opened up that heart for me, where I started to feel more. But it was not an overnight transformation. It was something that deeply transformed me. I started saying the way that I would react, how I would listen to people, how I would talk to people. And even if I still have my little personality where I could get excited and just speaking for the sake of speaking and talking for the sake of talking, there was that presence that I could feel that was different. I knew I was not alone. I always knew I was not alone, but I think there was a sense of me really getting to be transformed from the inside. It was not what I did anymore. It was not for me to put up more work into getting closer to Christ. It was me getting open, just being more open to His invitation, and being with Mary, with her saying yes right from the beginning and being obedient that way, just opened the path so much more into that sense for me. And when I started praying the Rosary again and getting a routine on that, I started feeling that transformation. There was a lot of things that I didn't see the same way anymore. Some superficial things, surface level things that I would see, and it wouldn't get me excited anymore. I would see people live, certain people, and I would not necessarily be so envious and not comparing myself too much with other people. It means that you're gonna start saying yes step by step, but not being resistant anymore the way that you would be at the beginning and questioning everything, but trusting the unknown, trusting the silence and not knowing everything. And that's a start. And I'm not perfect at it, but I'm leaning into it. I'm with Mary into that. There was a season when I prayed the Rosary daily. I was grieving, anxious, exhausted, and each day I begged for peace, but I was still unhappy with myself. What kept me going wasn't the outcome. It was the presence of Mary silently beside me. We expect the Rosary to work like medicine, instant, noticeable, measurable. But it's more like soil, hidden, slow, secret. The fruit is faithfulness, not fireworks. I got so many moments the past couple of years where I would give up entirely onto a lot of things, especially in the middle of the COVID because of my paperwork. There was a lot of things happening at the same time, a lot of things that I would see that was against me. Losing jobs, not knowing what would be next for me. I didn't have no money. I didn't even know if I was gonna be able to find something where I could make money to at least paying the bills, even paying the rent. And I was living into my friends' places from time to time because there was nowhere else that I would go. There was no place for me. And my mom felt so sad about it because she couldn't do anything. She was in Cameroon, she's still in Cameroon. And see her daughter suffer like that made her feel like she didn't have any control. She felt responsible for it. And for me, it hurt me even more. The moment where I got onto my knees and I said, God, it's all to you. I have no strength anymore. I leave it up to you. And I was praying the rosary that way. While I was thinking about it, I was asking the Holy Spirit to guide me, meditating through the suffering of Christ, where I would feel not alone anymore, all of a sudden, because He suffered for us before. And through the rosary, because you're meditating every step of the way in His life. And with Mary besides Him, you were not alone. You were meditating, you were feeling the presence, you were feeling everything. You were right there, and Christ was with you in your suffering. And you felt the joy of not suffering alone. I know a lot of us, when we suffer, we want to hide. We want to stop the pain as much as we can. We are born and built that way. Nobody likes to suffer. But when you start seeing the purpose of suffering, you start seeing the light, and you start becoming somebody else. You start becoming stronger, not by your own goods and your own power, but by His power. You understand real quick why you had to go through that. I didn't know why it was just me, why I had to go through so much, and I felt responsible. I offered it up. I surrendered. I kept surrendering. It was not just a one-time thing. I kept surrendering. I kept saying, it's all to you, Lord. If that has to happen, that it'll be all glory to you. If I need to learn anything, let me learn that. And I'm not saying that I love to suffer. I'm just saying that you get to a place where you have no control anymore. You just give it up to God through the rosary. And that's why the rosary is the perfect path. Meditating, you're thinking, you're visualizing it every step of the way, every episode, every season of Christ's life, through Mary, through her eyes, her loving eyes for her son, the way she loved him, she loves him, and the way that we should look up to him, the same way we should look up to him, and loving him that way. And that was the moment for me where I started opening my eyes more into my own suffering and start finding a relief. And when you start having and feeling that relief, you start finding strength in your suffering, into your pain. That is the most inexplicable things. It's hard to say that into words, but you find more of the strength because you're not alone anymore. I love avocados. They're so good. I could put them in anything and everything. I love it. But talking to my mom, a couple of years ago, she decided to plant an avocado tree at home in Cameroon. I didn't know about the time that it would get for those trees to actually produce the fruits. And she waited for 3 years. I had no idea. And she was telling me about it and how now she not only is able to enjoy the fruits after 3 years, but she is able to feed the entire neighborhood just from one tree. Those avocados. And they're so good, so good. Anything and everything goes through a season of it. And there's that season of wait, patience, that we don't like much. I'm not a patient person. I have to force myself to not always look up to the future and what's gonna happen and actually enjoy the present day. It's hard for me. So imagine my mom would not be patient like that. And after maybe 1 year, she'd be like, what is going on? And she would just entirely give up the thing because it's too long. You have to feed it, you have to add water, you have to make sure that everything is good, because again, in the soil, a lot of things can happen. So you have to make sure that the tree, or at least the seeds, they're growing well. That's the patience moment. That's the season of life that we don't like. And usually God makes us be in that stage of wait a lot longer that we would expect, because there's something that we need to learn from that. And the rosary is a moment and that tool where you learn to get through the wait and the patience. It gets you to appreciate every minute and every moment of your life like that. Because it's not about having results for the sake of having them. It's about deep spiritual transformation. And the spiritual transformation is not like a pill that the doctor is going to give you when you get sick. Because when you get sick and you get the pill, you want to get better as fast as possible. And when I get migraines or I get a headache, the only thing that I'm going to do is to get a pill, and probably a couple of hours later, I'm going to feel better, a lot better, if there's nothing else. When we think about spiritual transformation, it's something that we can't even notice happen. It's happening to us, but we don't necessarily see and realize every step or every stage of it. You're just starting to see how you understand things, listening to people, being more patient to certain situations, but it's not an overnight process. And that is God timing. That's how it works 99% of time with 99% of us. Because through the waiting time, through the waiting stage, we're learning so much more than what we think we don't learn. But the modern society today, when you think about the pill, there's something much more natural with the tree, aka with us too. We're humans, so we go through seasons, we go through episodes. We have those episodes and seasons of life where nothing is necessarily blooming, or we feel like nothing is blooming. Everything is not changing much, but Lord is doing the work through you. When you get to pray the Rosary, you feel that. You get onto that. You appreciate even those moments because you appreciate the silence. You appreciate your season because it's not about the end goal. It's about the journey you're in. It's about the stage of the life you're in. So you get to appreciate every stage and every season of your life. And that's the avocado tree. This is who we are. We're going through seasons. We're not like pills. Pill is something that is manufactured. It's something that is created, invented by humans to get us through things, to get us through pains. But the Lord doesn't want to get us through the pains only. He wants us to learn. He wants us to rely on Him. He doesn't want us to be alone. That's why He brings Mary, His mom, and that's why He gave His mom to us. Because we shouldn't be alone. Never. We should be able to always rely on Him, always rely on His mom, and being able to be okay with that. And being able to go through the stages and the seasons, just like an avocado tree. Because no matter what you're gonna do, you just have to wait until it produces the fruits. At some point through those 3 years, you start learning more about growing a tree, about growing plants. You start being more passionate about growing plants, actually. So it goes beyond the avocado tree itself. Maybe you're gonna start being passionate about planting and really cultivating your garden and loving it, being passionate about it, finding that skill that you didn't know you had. And that's a season of your life. That's the wait time. When you use the Rosary, you're appreciating all of that. And the hard thing for us to accept, because we live in the spectacle stage of the society, where for you to be seen is for you to blow up online on social media. People are going to start talking about you because you blew up on social media. But other than that, people don't notice you that much. And you should be okay with it. Mary was hidden, but yet she became the mother of God. Because she said yes. Because she was obedient. Not because she got trendy. Not because she got viral. It's because she said yes. And the true success and the true spiritual transformation to everything you're going to be doing here online is not going to be about fireworks. Actually, you're going to do a lot of things, and probably people are not even going to notice that. But you're going to be so at peace and so joyful because you're cultivating that. You're not cultivating the spirit of being here and blow up on social media. You're cultivating the spirit of God, a truly, deeply transformation. And that's going to be there for the long term versus you getting clicks and blow up like that on social media. Mary didn't escape pain. She stood beneath the cross. When you pray the sorrowful mysteries, you're not asking for a detour. You're asking for companion on the way. We get to ask every time when we get through pain why it happens to us. why we couldn't just avoid it, why we had to suffer. I think it's an eternal question for somebody who don't believe in God and doesn't understand the power of God and the love that God has for us. It's like religion is dangerous. It creates division. Why would God be so loving and yet leave us to suffer? This is something that I hear all the time. When you start thinking God and the love that God has for us, it's because He truly loves us that He gave us the free will to decide, to say yes or to say no to His invitation. That's the first part. The second part is that building intimacy and building the relationship with Christ start with having a free will. It's hard to comprehend because being happy became synonym of not suffering into the society today. When you suffer, you're not happy. When you get to be Christian and you start seeing the suffering in that reference, in that light, especially when you're Catholic, the suffering is the opportunity for you to build that intimacy with Christ, to build that intimacy with the Lord. And when you are with Mary being so loving, her being so loving, she is the perfect example because she was in front of the cross. She saw her son suffer, die in front of us, being tortured, being crucified. She couldn't do anything about it. Yet she stood there. That is true love. It's not about avoiding any suffering. It's not about avoiding any pain. It's about being there in front of the person that you love so much. Not to avoid suffering, but because you love the person so much that you want to be there for him or her until the end. That is true, real love. But when you get to be today, everything is about avoiding the pain. We're getting to the extremes today to avoid the pain. We don't want to build that intimacy whatsoever with that. And that's where the Lord is finding us even more. When we are so vulnerable and we are so into that need of being saved, not for the sake of being saved, because you're calling out to Him through Mary. And Mary is such a powerful woman, that to have to get that example, to be truly there, not running, not avoiding the pain, not avoiding the suffering, but being truly there, that is real power, that is real strength, that is real intimacy. When we get into marriage, things might go left or south, or not necessarily the way you expect. Let's say your spouse gets sick, gravely sick. You're not gonna run away. If you truly love him or her, you're not running away, but you're there, you're praying, even if it's hard. But if I get to Canada at the moment and helping people to unalive themselves, right? It's not love. There's nothing here that is love. Nothing. It's something that is truly, truly selfish to me. Because there's no way to explain that, even if the person is to end his life or just not being here on the planet anymore, alive, not being able to see that truly happening, naturally happening, just because you want to control the end. You want to control everything about the end. You couldn't control the beginning. Nobody gave you that life. But then you get to have the control of ending the life because you can. And that's the toxic part with science today. It's because we can do a lot of things, therefore we do. And that is the most dangerous thing ever. Because at the end of the day, science has to be in the line of the morality. It has to be seen through that lens. But when you're suffering with Christ, He's not running away from that. He's coming to you, running to you, being ready to save you, being ready to go with you through the pain of getting through anything and everything because of Christ, because of her. And that is true intimacy. And that's the thing that we miss a lot. When you get to be close to Mary, you understand that. You love that. My mom, every time that she gets to bed, one of her prayers is to call onto Mary, to call onto the celestial army, Michael, the archangel, the whole army, Christ. Every single time that she does that, she knows and feels the presence even more. She's not alone. She knows it. She senses it. And that's how she got to see the power of Mary through a lot of episodes in our family life. So that's the same thing here with building that intimacy. It's because you're learning to rely on Him and not on you, not on your strength. No, at all. One night, I left my rosary on the table. I was too tired to disillusion, but something, maybe grace, whispered, pray just 1 decade. So I did. And in the quiet of that moment, I was no longer alone. The Lord doesn't ask for much. He asks for the yes and a small act of obedience. And I remember those times where I was so tired, exhausted mentally because too many things was happening to me. It was so hard because I didn't know where to turn. I would pray, but nothing would be happening. And I was expecting for quick relief. But at some point, by just doing the little things, even if you can't do everything, you're gonna get the grace to do more. You're gonna get the grace to go through the whole journey of it. But you don't know yet if you don't start. And that's not with 1 decade. That's not with even one Hail Mary. That's it. You don't need to go that far. You don't need to impress. The Lord doesn't ask you that. Mary doesn't ask you for that. But just call onto her name. Call onto his name. It would always be at the moment where I was most tired, every single time, that I would get the grace of something. Just the grace of just praying a little bit more, to read a little bit more of the Bible, even to listen to the Bible if I didn't have time, to start getting inspired, all of a sudden having ideas onto how I can organize myself to pray more, do those videos, make those videos, keep going even when things get complicated, even when I just don't feel like it. And I want to spend my Saturday doing something else. And those moments is where you start having the grace because you just said yes to the small things. And those small things, they are the seeds that get planted, that grow into beautiful flowers. And those beautiful flowers, they get stronger because the seeds, the foundation is so strong. And when you start from that point, you're gonna be so stronger because you're not relying on yourself anymore like that. So you start small and you get to be big, not by yourself, but by His grace. We keep waiting for answered prayers, but what if the miracle is staying, still showing up, still holding the bead, still whispering hope? In the Bible, you learn how to pray, but to pray all the time, to pray with persistence. Keep asking, keep asking, keep asking. That's what the Lord asks us to do in the Bible. The Rosary is the same exact process, the same journey, the same path. It's not about performing. It's about rediscovering, opening your eyes into even things that you didn't see to start with. You might start with one request when you pray. Let's say I want to have more money, I want to make more money. And then the Lord takes that and He's starting to see deeper into your heart. And He's like, okay, she wants to make more money. Okay. And He starts seeing something else that you need. Rather than you making money, He's going to give you something else first. And then you're going to be so surprised or maybe dissatisfied because you were looking at the money and focusing on the money. And then you're just like, this is not what I wanted. I wanted money. What about you giving me something else? And that is spiritual formation. You don't know where you're going to end up. You just have to obey. You keep asking. You keep asking. And at some point, even your prayers start changing. Those requests start changing. When you are a child, the way you're going to pray is going to be very much different from you when you get to grow up. When you get to be a child, you can ask anything from an ice cream to a lot of gifts for Christmas. When you start growing up, you might start with making money and finish by just peace. And sometimes in my prayer, it's really that. I just want to be at peace. I just want to feel the peace. And that's how your prayer life starts changing. Because the grace that you receive from just doing the small things, they get to open your eyes into things that really matter even in your life. And it's not the Lord enforcing that on you. It's because you're starting to align yourself with that vocation and that mission that the Lord has for you. And when you start praying the Rosary, you see all of that because the way that Mary did, the way that Mary brought up everything in her life with her son, is really that. Even with that little trust, it can do a lot of things. If your faith was that big, it could move mountains. And it's the same thing. Praying the Rosary is that spiritual formation because it becomes a routine. It becomes a thing where you start planning and being organized. You are thinking, meditating through the life of Christ all the time. In the morning, in the night, even in the middle of the day. And you get to do that everywhere. You're not limited to a corner, a space. You can do that in your head. Being at work, nobody is going to know. But by just doing it and start with one thing, it's going to be something amazing. And the persistence of it is because the wait time is the best time ever to learn a lot more about you. Because when you get to be to the becoming and doing the thing, you know so much of what you need to do that it becomes something that is almost way too natural. So you have to practice the patience, practice the wait, cultivate that, cultivate the patience, cultivate the charity. This isn't a formula. It's not for answers. It's for presence. Join the 7-day Rosary Challenge if you're tired, numb, or starting over. One Hail Mary at a time, you're not alone. This is the reason why I created the 7-day Rosary Challenge for all of us. If you feel tired, exhausted, you don't know where to start. You don't know if you want to stay at that job, start something online. If you want to be creative, being at home with your kids, have a family, but being able to feed your family, being more present to your people that you care the most about. Anything that you're going through, entrepreneur, mom, student, somebody that's just looking at discovering what she wants to do in her life, that Rosary Challenge is for you. And it's really the best connection that you would have, especially when you are a woman. We learn and hear a lot of things, a lot of wrong things, I feel, about being a woman and cultivating that womanhood. And it's something that I'm looking to do more. And through the Rosary, I've learned so much about me just being a woman in Christ, a true daughter of Christ. And having Mary besides me is the best model that I could have being a woman. And that's something that I want to extend to all of you. Invite you to be on that journey with me, because we're not alone. We're not supposed to do that alone. So if you're that person, you really want to cultivate that, you really want to get deeper, not for clicks, not for views, not for trends, but you're really here to plant the seeds, that is going to be the place for you. And if you want to do more, we have our Rosary Rebel Sisterhood Circle. I'm so excited. We're going to do a lot of things starting with Rosary together. And if you still have questions, definitely get back at me. But I can promise you that Rosary Challenge is going to be the best thing ever. Definitely. May your prayers not be perfect, but persistent. May your suffering not be erased, but embraced. And may Mary walk beside you always, even when the answers are silent. I know you can do it, and I hope that you learned something about it. I'm very much a fan of the Rosary. It's the best tool. So if you like this video, you know what to do. And on my next episode, we're gonna get deeper into it, ideas and trends and things just to be online and being a true daughter of Christ. Being a true creative daughter of Christ. So if you like that, definitely subscribe. And like I say all the time, keep smiling because it's free and contagious in a good way.